All right, colonizers.
Sick roast you learned from the Disney movie, Yesin.
Why, thank you. It was a sick roast I learned from the Disney movie. We're talking...
What?
WolfPunch.
Yeah, we are.
Hello, everyone. We're WolfPunch.
And we're unprofessional.
We're very professional. We're the supposedly comedic podcast where five guys get together and talk about movies, even though we have no qualifications to.
Except me.
All right, Dan, give it a rest. This week, we're talking about Black Panther, the new Marvel Disney movie. Not to be confused with the 1921 German silent film Black Panther. So if you were here for that, you're at the wrong podcast.
I mean, they are very similar, though, in a lot of ways.
They are very... Probably, I have no idea. It was... making jokes.
Just making jokes. Look at you, Kyle. You're
Yeah.
doing it.
They can't look at him. It's a podcast.
No, I'm saying he looked at
It's like a
himself.
figurative... Like, I'll look in the mirror later and I'll be like,
Yeah.
still gorgeous, buddy.
Yep. He got it. Flew right over your head.
Yeah.
I don't get your colonizer humor. I'm not.
Oh my god.
That's gonna keep being a thing.
It won't get old.
I can't wait until you die.
It's the best insult.
But it's not.
It is. It's such a good insult.
I'm getting bored just hearing it.
So anyways, today we have Zane Parmenter.
Hey, what's up?
We got Yesin drinking his Fiji water as per usual.
Colonizers invented Fiji.
Well, I was
That's
going to
true.
say, he's not actually from Fiji, so is he colonizing the water?
You know it.
Welcome to my level.
With my taste buds.
We have Dan Hines, Michael Kemp,
Hey.
and me, Kyle Miller, the best one, the heaviest one. We'll put it that way. And by heavy, I mean like deep. Like I'm saying heavy.
That's what everyone assumed.
Yeah.
Again, they can't see you.
They can hear how fat I am.
Hey, they can see us on
those
our official
bees.
Instagram now, guys.
Yeah, that's good job, Michael. Keep blasting those photos. Anyway, somebody else talk now.
What do you mean? I
So
thought
this
you were
week-
just going to talk all about this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you loved it so much.
So this week we're reviewing Black Panther, again the newest entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Black Panther is the story of T'Challa, or Chala? How would you say it?
T'Challa.
The T is not
the
silent.
king of the fictional African country of Wakanda, which is like a secret nation that has the highest level of technology in the world in this cinematic universe, but it's hiding and no one knows about it. And he is the Black Panther, which is their king and like superhero guy who has superpowers. After the death of his father in Captain America: Civil War, he now has to take over the throne and shepherd Wakanda into, I don't know,
The new era.
into the movie.
Yeah. Into the movie. That's what they said. It was a line. Like, we need to...
And meanwhile, shit goes awry when Andy Serkis and Michael B. Jordan show up.
That's true. That is true. It does go quite awry.
There we go.
He goes, the circus is in town.
And then he shoots people.
And then he shoots
His
people.
name's not the circus, though.
I thought that's what...
It's Ulysses.
Andy Serkis.
I am...
Ulysses Gollum Snoke the Third.
Or you make a joke. All right.
All right. So,
I'm here to laugh.
what you guys think? Black Panther. Whoa, hey. First of all, you guys are all white, so it is racist if you say anything negative about this movie.
That's true.
Now be racist.
Totally
Do
is.
it.
Whoa.
I loved it.
2 thumbs up, says this white guy. Wow.
No, that was good.
Oh, boy.
It was good. I think it was good, but...
You sound like you have a gun to your head.
Technically, yeah, Yesin is holding guns to our head
He
right
is.
now, being like, don't embarrass your race.
Yikes.
I mean...
Not holding guns. Don't have that many hands.
I think it's a shame that it took this long for Marvel to make this good of a movie.
To make Blade 3? Okay, before we get into anything, I just want to say something that, like, so in the movie, like, they show that they're from Wakanda by having, like, the whole lip thing that they pull down. They have the tattoos on there. It's like, you fuckers stole that right from Blade 2.
Wait, is that a thing?
That is-
I've never
Yeah,
seen
it's
any
like
Blade
the vampires
movies,
will
so-
mark like they're protected humans that
They're
no one else can.
familiars.
Yeah, they're familiars with the lip thing.
Interesting.
And I
Daryl
was-
Dixon has that right there.
And like, I swear they do it like 6 times in Black Panther. It's like they're really proud of this little thing. It's like, motherfucker, that's like from your own movies.
Yeah.
But it didn't glow.
Wait, that was a Marvel movie?
Yeah,
Blade,
Blade,
yeah,
Blade is-
Blade, yeah.
Blade is a Marvel
He's a
character.
I
superhero.
don't know.
Yeah, come on.
This guy.
Never seen
actually
the
does
Marvel
like
movie.
a
That's a
movie
Guillermo
podcast.
del Toro Marvel movie too. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
didn't-
Blade
Really?
2. And
Yeah.
He did.
And that one, yeah, he did.
haven't
Blade
seen
2.
it.
Can we just talk about Blade 2?
I haven't seen it, so you guys can, I
Sounds
guess.
like we are.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say...
There's a sword fight at the end, and they're playing Crystal Method's Name of the Game, and it's the most like 2003 thing you'll ever see in your entire life.
Wait,
it's
isn't Ryan Reynolds in that movie?
No, that's Blade 3.
Yeah,
Oh,
get it right, man. Come on.
Sorry.
So we're going to do... Just me and Dan will do a Blade podcast later. Since
Blade trilogy.
We're gonna call it the Blade Cast.
Wolf Blade.
Anyway, Black Panther.
Yeah, that's real
guys.
sweet. Is it too late to change the name of this podcast?
To Wolf Blade?
Wolf Blade.
We are way off topic.
No,
Yeah.
we're on top.
Wolf Panther.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
I don't even remember what I was saying, but that's fine.
You're saying you didn't like the movie?
Kind of.
Oh wow!
I did. It was a really good movie. Like, well acted. All the set pieces were good looking. All the costumes
Yeah, the end was
was
fucking
all
dumb.
good.
The costumes were tight.
Yeah, the costumes were real tight. It looked like they did really well at like researching like all the looks. Really liked Michael B. Jordan in this, but the Marvel fatigue is setting in real hard.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I can agree with that.
I just can't care anymore.
I feel like when Infinity War comes out, like, that's when I'm just going to be like, okay,
I'm done.
well, it's...
'Cause I'm like,
You
what
know
can
that's a
they
lie,
do?
and you're still gonna see the next Marvel movie though. But
What's
you're
the
not
next
gonna be
one after
except.
that?
Who cares?
I feel like I
I
probably
think
wouldn't
next
even.
is
I think it's-
Infinity War.
Well,
And
Infinity
Ant-Man
War is
Wasp,
one
I
after
thought.
this, and then after Infinity War, I think is Ant-Man the Wasp.
Oh really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I am going to go see that.
So I was gonna
God,
say,
I don't give a
exactly.
shit about
Yeah.
that at all.
I know.
I
don't
love
give a
Paul
shit
Rudd,
about it.
and I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, if it weren't for us probably reviewing it, like, I probably wouldn't.
I mean,
wouldn't see it.
Evangeline Lilly looks real good, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Black Panther.
Yeah. Someone
Yeah.
else say
Keep
things
getting
about
off
Black
topic.
Panther because I'm.
I think it's a good movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Actually, like there was so much hype behind it, and I was kind of just in the mindset that like I think it's going to be a good movie, but I think like other people are going to get more out of it than I will. But then when I actually did go see it, I was really surprised by how much I did enjoy it. There's definitely a lot of the whole Marvel fatigue going on in things that just like you don't really care about or just feel more shoehorned in than usual. The third act, we'll get to that eventually, but that's probably where like a lot of I just felt like it.
Yeah, let's hold off on spoilers. For
Yeah.
a little
Right,
bit.
right. But overall, like I thought the performance was really good. The social issues that they brought up were actually like really integral to the story
Yeah.
and didn't feel overly heavy-handed and like preachy in ways that I was somewhat concerned that it might come off as. And yeah, the cast was terrific. And I think we can probably all agree on this one fact that it has the best villains in any Marvel movie.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. By far.
They actually took time to like develop them, give them motivations and like sympathies and a reason to understand them
Yeah.
and why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm gonna slightly disagree with you guys. I loved it. I actually don't even think Marvel fatigue applies for me. For this movie, Marvel fatigue didn't apply. I think this movie was easily the best Marvel movie they've ever done.
Yeah.
It's a movie that going in, I thought, oh, there's a lot of hype. I hope it actually is deserving of this hype, and I actually think this movie is pretty much deserving of the hype. I don't think it's just another Marvel movie, but blacker. Like I don't think that's what this is.
No.
I think that
Michael, that was your review of the movie, right?
No.
I think
No,
that
it
this
wasn't.
is. I think that aside from like the Afrofuturism and just the fact that you have a black superhero leading a movie for the first time the first time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at least. I also think they told a more adult story than they ever have by a lot.
Yeah.
And they also, I don't think it really felt like it was, it didn't do the thing that the Marvel movies have been doing for a while now, where they constantly try and tie it to other Marvel movies. Like you remember with Ant-Man, they had, Edgar Wright was originally slated to do it, and then he realized that they didn't really want his ideas, and so I don't know how much was his or how much wasn't, but the end movie the movie you ended up with, there was that scene where Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, is going to like the Avengers headquarters.
Yeah, and he fights the Falcon.
And he fights the Falcon, and the scene totally doesn't belong in the movie at all. It's just like, oh, well, we have to connect it to...
Not as bad as Thor going to, like, the swimming pool.
Yeah, right.
No,
and that's another example. You have
I mean, at least, I don't know. I mean, that you can't say it didn't fit whatever was
Well,
going on.
I guess what I'm saying is it felt like in order to fully understand this here, you really need to have been watching these other movies and
Black Panther stands alone pretty well.
Sure,
Black
yeah,
Panther
it
stands
does.
alone pretty well.
I can agree with
there is
that.
there is this kind of there are some flashbacks to what happened in Civil War, but it stands alone and it doesn't really feel like it's trying to attach itself to the others. It doesn't happen in New York. It doesn't throw in. Is Martin Freeman?
Yeah, he's in
Martin
it.
Freeman was in Civil War,
Yeah.
and he
I
felt
don't
like
remember him from Civil War.
you don't
He
remember
had
a lot of things. You
he had
didn't
a
remember that
small
Andy
part.
Serkis had showed up before either.
I didn't. No, I
Uh,
didn't. That he was not memorable when he showed up before, but he was memorable in this.
He was in Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sure.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that.
See,
we get it. We watch
got it.
movies.
Well, I also forgot about Age of Ultron the second I walked out of the theater. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that this movie is deserving of the hype. We're not to recommendations yet, but I do recommend that everyone should go see this. And I think it told a more adult superhero story. And what Dan said is on point. The villains are great. The characters in general are great. The set pieces, the design of everything, the costumes, all of it works. And the story is actually, I think the story is pretty simple. It's got a Lion King vibe. It's like superhero Lion King sort of thing. Like there's like a throne succession issue, and then it's like
in Thor.
Yeah, but Thor doesn't really handle it in.
Thor just likes to crush.
I'm just saying.
Like
it's
which
we've kind
which
of
Thor?
seen it.
But which Thor? Because it's in like Thor 1 and Thor 3.
I would say Thor 1.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
More
well,
so.
Yeah,
with,
more so.
with Thor
Yeah.
1, like it I guess it's sort of like a.
It's not as good, Zane. Don't be a Thor loser.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would say that it's definitely not as
Really
good.
hammered that joke.
yes.
Oh,
I
man.
would say with Thor 1, it's just not as good. Like there's no like.
I'm not saying it's as good. I'm
Right.
not saying that at all. I'm just saying
They've done the
we've
story
seen
before.
the
We've seen-
own story before.
The broad strokes of the plot progression and
Yes.
the characters are similar to other movies that they've done.
Yes.
They
Not
just did
executed
better
as
this
well,
time.
but
Yeah, okay,
for
but
a lot of us, it feels like familiar ground that's being tread.
sure, but I do have to say, like, it's way better than, like, by the time we got to Doctor Strange, I was just like, the only part of that movie that I liked besides the very end was, like,
Oh,
when the
very
mop fell over. I
Yeah.
was like, this story is fucking boring. I'm tired of all of the same, like,
Yeah.
superhero origins where they're a broken person or they're just, like, so brilliant they can't function around other
Yeah.
people and then they learn they have this great purpose. Like, this movie didn't do that. Like,
Yeah.
as far as, like, a first for a superhero, it was, like, way
it's 'cause
fresher than all that.
we already saw his origin in Civil War. Basically, we saw
Yeah,
his
yeah,
dad die, and then he became Black Panther, and that was it. And that's all you
Yeah,
needed.
but that's not really an
I
origin.
wouldn't
But
call
that's
that
all
an
you
origin
needed.
either.
That's all you needed to know.
Sure,
for him
but
to
I'm
be
talking
him.
about, like, a solo movie. Also, I do
Yeah.
have to say, like, this movie was way more adult in terms of, like, the way it was conveying a problem that you could understand both sides of, that there was, like, moral complexity. 'Cause
Moral complexity was a huge part.
Yeah,
of this
like
movie.
I remember when Winter Soldier came out, everyone was like, "This is much more adult and darker than other Marvel
Yeah.
movies," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm in!" Like Captain America is going to be learning like America doesn't uphold the values that he thought that they did, and he's going to go through this whole crisis. And instead, it was like, fucking the Sundance Kid is the leader of Hydra, and they've got these giant gunships to just shoot at smart people, and you're like, that is a ridiculously cartoonish plan for a supposedly like adult, darker superhero movie.
This is like kind of a cartoon movie.
Well, I was gonna say this movie does feature like a giant space asteroid that gave them superpower technology.
Yeah, but that I buy.
actual superpowers and actual super
Well,
weapons.
that totally works.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot more moral complexity, like, in this story where, like, when he becomes king, like, he learns, like, his father wasn't necessarily the person that he thought he was.
Yeah.
Or, like, the values that his country has been upholding, he's starting to question.
And probably like one of the most impressive things for me about it is it managed to do these things without going into like the super like gritty DC territory where it's like everything's bad, everything sucks. Like it managed to marry it to like the more like flamboyant visuals, like the more like what was it, Afrofuturism technology that they're talking about in the film. Much better.
That's reference to technology, the society, the costume.
There's also a lot of death in this movie. There was a lot of stabbing.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
Which was
without getting into
surprising.
spoilers, characters get stabbed, their throat slit,
Yeah.
They get made fun of.
clawed, murdered.
Clawed.
yeah.
Did you get clawed by a claw?
No, like clawed by a panther.
I'll make the puns, all right? Me or Dan?
Anyway, but like, yeah, and I would actually agree that. I mean, this is a whole nother topic, but the way DC has kind of like been aiming to tell these more adult stories, and this movie proves that you can actually do that without trying to just like throw gray and like kind of
Darkness.
without trying to just throw biblical references. and,
Logan
like,
did it better.
well,
Yes.
Well,
Logan did it better.
Logan, absolutely. I would say
Logan's
yeah.
the best. We're not
Logan
talking
is-
Logan is also a superhero western, and this is a very
Sure, Logan's a very different kind of movie.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that you brought it up because, like, usually I do
You're
that.
welcome. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you guys switch places or something.
Yeah.
Although I would say that Logan probably told a more adult story. I don't know how far above this I would put Logan.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not.
Are you kidding?
The more I've like thought about it, the more I just think they're different types of movies. But Logan has a lot of cliches too, and this movie has some cliches, and like this has better villains than Logan.
But the story's not really.
Yeah, the
about
story's not
villain.
really about the villains in Logan. Let's not turn this into a thing where we compare it to
It
Logan.
doesn't, it doesn't need a
Because-
competition, but it does need to be a competition.
I won't
but-
side with you at all, and then we're just going to be talking about
That's
Logan.
okay.
All the white people in the room liked Logan more than
Well, I mean, I'm not really taking a side on that. I don't think it's that. Anyway,
they're different kind of movies.
They're very different kinds.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing I'm saying is that they're different kind of movies, and the more I've gotten away from it, the more I've thought about it that way. Like, well, this Black Panther is also supposed to be for kids,
Yeah.
and Logan's not.
Sure. Although they do flip a bird in Black
They
Panther.
do.
Which I was
They
startled
do.
by.
That's true.
His good Catholic mother would not have let me see that in the
No,
theater
I
as a
was
kid.
I was shocked.
Speaking of
And appalled.
Flip Bird, let's talk about the characters.
Okay.
Well, because the sister was like
Because the
my
sister
favorite. She was
like,
great. She was the one
great,
who
and
flipped the bird.
everyone's
She was
saying
great.
that she's great, and
Yeah.
she flipped the bird.
She was really good at getting that whole millennial generation into the movie,
Yeah.
so they can relate to him.
Yeah.
Good. What are those? Your fucking sandals.
Oh,
That part actually.
Yeah, that made me laugh. That was a good joke.
I
That was
wonder if
funny.
they actually like just like the writer like just went onto like his daughter's Instagram and just like took a line from like a comment or something like announced in the movie, and that kid savvy.
That was
No.
actually real good.
No, that was real. Like everyone's saying that. The thing is, like, the character of Black Panther was kind of stole the show in Civil War.
Oh, I was gonna say I thought you meant in this movie. For a
Oh
second.
no,
I was like, Lord.
the character of T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman's
Yeah.
character,
Yep.
he stole the show in Civil War, and then in this movie that centers around him, you kind of had like other people stealing the show from him,
Yeah.
like constantly.
I mean,
You had Michonne from The Walking Dead.
yeah.
And I think Letitia Wright. Is
Everyone
her
think it was
name.
really weird how Michonne's
Yeah.
nipples were just like peeking out through her costume the whole
Wow.
film. Like I didn't notice that at first. When there was that one rain scene, like that's really obvious. Like her nipples are just right fucking out.
I
And then the
didn't
rest of the
notice that.
movie, every time she was on screen, I'm just like, what would this be like in 3D? This would be weird. So
Well,
this is
Everybody.
PG-13, like
You
and
call
from
me
Disney.
the pervert.
No, like once
I
you notice
genuinely-
it, you
Yeah.
can't stop looking.
I never noticed.
I never
And
noticed
it's like-
either.
I
You're
didn't
the
notice.
only
It's
one.
just like, did the costume designer sneak this in and no one like really was like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have like
Just
20
turn anatomy.
nipples.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't.
Well,
know.
yes, I imagine she
We
does
all
in
have
fact
nipples.
have nipples.
Yeah.
Yes.
All have
But-
nipples.
Except Kyle.
Speak for yourself. Yeah.
Once you see, it's hard to unsee, and then when she's on screen, it's like
Okay.
Disney.
Well, anyway,
Nipples.
Switching gears here.
switching gears.
Okay, yeah.
No, I think we should talk about the nipples a little.
I mean,
hey.
just swiftly move on. I think that aside from her, Michael B. Jordan was just like he was super intense whenever he was on screen.
Mm-hmm.
He was aside from what we mentioned before, he's the best villain. You know what? Start getting into spoilers. Two villains, Andy Serkis and Michael B. Jordan. Andy Serkis is great in that he's sort of like a.
I feel like he's the Joker without the theatrics, in that like he'll come up with crazy plans. Like you could literally do anything to him, and he just won't care. He'll be laughing the whole time. And he just wants to see carnage and do crazy shit.
I mean, he's just a capitalist. He wants to make money off of Wakandan vibranium.
Yeah. And
How about that sentence? And he does want to have fun doing it. And then he's sort of like the Snoke villain.
Yeah,
Which is funny since
I
he is
actually,
Snoke.
since we are in spoiler territory now, like I was definitely thinking like, wow, like this is one of the best villains ever in like a Marvel film, and then he ends up exiting stage left halfway through the film.
He gets shot in the gut.
And again in the head. But so no, he dies.
Yeah, essentially, he's killed by Kylo Ren again, except this time Kylo Ren is Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
Sure.
No, but I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, there goes the villain that I cared about for this movie. Like, what are they going to do from here? And then it turns out Michael B. Jordan is actually a much more, like, layered, nuanced, and better villain than him. So it was like, whoa.
Killmonger. So his name is not as layered and nuanced as his character
Not
is.
a lot of subtlety in that handle. Hi, I'm
Yeah.
Killmonger. I'm here to do your taxes.
Did they just
No.
like throw monger on the end of like villains?
Well,
back
you
in
also
the
have to remember,
60s? Like
these are
the
stupid
Ironmonger?
comics for children.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to, keep the fans,
Well, that
keep
was-
the,
It's like
the 20
that's the
fans that read
thing.
the comics happy.
They're trying to. They kind of shoehorn in things from the comics, which if they were writing, they would not call him Killmonger.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was something that stood out to me. Was like they like he says his name. They know his name, but then like he's off doing the bad guy thing, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta stop Killmonger," and I'm like. He said his name. Why are you calling him? They mentioned like in a throwaway line, like, "Oh, they called him Killmonger when he was part of that unit or whatever that he was part of." And I'm like, "That's the thing you picked up on." Like, if this is like any other movie, like they would have called him by his actual name, but because it's a superhero movie,
I mean,
he's Killmonger.
I don't remember what his Wakanda name is. I know his name's Eric.
Yeah, that too.
Is
Like he had two other real names, and they
American
chose
name.
Killmonger.
Yeah, but I mean, how dramatic is that? We gotta go stop Eric. Shit. If I get a fucking
Professor
phone in,
X said that several times
Yeah.
about Magneto,
I was gonna
Okay.
say
and it worked just fine.
I mean,
Shit.
it depends how you say it. We have to stop Eric.
No,
I'm just saying, if I ever get a cool handle, you only call me that from now on.
never.
just like Zane Raminer.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Exactly.
We gotta go stop ramming in her.
Switching gears. But yeah, I thought that like all the characters kind of would like steal the show from Black Panther.
Yeah.
Which is fine since I think he actually worked really well as sort of like a kind of the like a backbone to the movie.
Yeah.
That would sort of let other characters jump into the foreground and then
He was James Bond in this
Yeah.
movie. He was like there and he was doing his thing, and he wasn't very exciting to watch because most James Bonds are like boring and everyone around him is the eclectic, like crazy part of the world, like the bad guy and the women that he's with. So I don't know. I mean, it reminded me a lot of a James Bond movie. The like the casino part, the car chase.
Oh, I hated the car chase.
His whole like demeanor, like Black Panther's demeanor.
Very cool and composed.
The villain. I mean, I don't know if James Bond ever had a villain that was like layered like Killmonger, but it's. I mean,
I love that.
weird.
It's
It's funny to say layered like Killmonger, but
yeah,
I know what you mean.
yeah. No, it's like I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was super fun, but yeah, I mean, it did remind me a lot of a Bond movie, and not necessarily like the great parts of a Bond movie, but also not the worst parts of a Bond movie. So it's kind of right there in the middle for me.
Okay.
You were saying you hate the car chase.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
speak more
So
to that.
all right. So there really is a big Marvel movie fatigue for me, and I don't mean to just be coming down on this movie with it because I said the same thing about Thor 3, about Guardians 2. I'm just fucking tired of Marvel movies, and they all have really, really boring, long action sequences to me, and I'm watching a car chase where the person driving the car isn't even in the car, and then our hero is on top, and he's bulletproof, and you're like, this isn't very tense.
Like, I know he's gonna live.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it's a cool gimmick to be like, oh, she can drive the car without having to be in it. But that would have worked better for me if it was like, if she had to ram the car into something. And then that comes back later when Bilbo's flying the aircraft. But for that to just run on and on, you're like, oh, well, the other two women, maybe there's some tension there. And it's like, no. He blows up their car, and you see Michonne, like, flip up into the air and grab her, like, spear and stab it into a piece of debris and surf down. And you're like, that was fucking ridiculous. And then what's more, the driver's seat is just intact.
Yeah.
And the other girl
With
just
the
slides
steering
down. And you're like, I laughed. It's a funny joke, but I feel
Wait,
like...
you laughed at that?
Yeah, I was
Yeah, it
like,
was
yeah,
funny.
it's funny. But, like, that's Marvel movies in a nutshell.
You
like,
guys rip on episode 8, but you think that's funny?
What was episode 8 again? Oh, Last Jedi. I don't know. Like, it's just... I feel like a lot of Marvel movies are like that, where you're, like, watching 10 minutes of, like, an action sequence.
It's almost like it's constructed to have these beats at a set of
Yeah,
time in the script.
You
we need an
might
action
say.
beat. We need a dumb comedic beat. We need a plot beat.
See, that's the other thing is I feel like some of the flow of this movie was a little weird.
Yeah.
Like, the opening scene is, like, really underwhelming, but then it ties back into the story later, and it's just... The amount of time they spread that out is a little weird.
Well, you've talked about like two vast things just now.
Yeah, I'm just jumping around.
I would say that I don't.
Panther.
I actually don't think I would agree with that take fully. Like I see some of it, but I think that for me, like when I say like, oh yeah, well I don't feel threatened. Or I don't feel like the character is in danger. It's like, well, it's the same as like when you watch Superman. Like, you know, it's not
But he's
necessarily
Superman.
It's not necessarily about and he's Black Panther. Like, it's not necessarily different scenes are about different things. Like the scene, like the car chase scene wasn't about being worried for those characters. It was
No,
it was
but
more
I
about
mean, as a
It was
sequence,
about having an action beat.
I don't
for
even
them
know
more than
what the
anything.
fucking car chase was about now.
Well,
Like, I
he
can't
was
even
trying to
remember.
catch
they were
Gollum.
trying to catch
Oh.
Gollum. Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
But no, I again, this is one where I disagree. Like, I think that this is a scene where we've introduced these characters and we're trying to show how they function as a team. And I actually thought it was pretty delightful. The way that those four characters worked as a team in that scene, I thought was really good. Like, and the fact that they succeeded, is like kind of like speaks to that.
then that sequence needs to be way shorter
I
because
was
they
gonna
have
say,
such
you
an
see
upper
them work
hand.
as a team like multiple other points
Yeah.
in the movie too.
I mean, you see the Morgan team later, but I think that was the introductory scene where they.
I see where you're coming from. I think that was a
Like,
good way to
I
get
see where you're coming from, and I feel like that's a bit more of a subjective argument where it's like if you're more invested in, I guess, the film and characters itself, you would appreciate that more. But like I'm kind of like in the middle ground. Like I didn't hate the car chase scene, but I was also just kind of like it's just another action scene.
It's just I'm tired of watching like just another action scene. You know, like the big fight at the end. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then
I was
it
like
gets,
the opposite of that.
Then you have a bunch of cartoon rhinos.
Oh,
coming
that
out.
was the exact point. I was just sitting there like, when is this gonna get dumb as shit?
Yeah, and-
like I was just waiting.
Yeah, like at first I was in. I thought this is pretty cool. And then like a bunch of cartoon
And then
rhinos
she has
come
like
out.
little panther hands. They're like shooting at
Yeah.
like fireballs at
And then
Killmonger.
the superhero versus the supervillain was like the most boring part of that, and it looked
like
now-
dog shit.
Yeah, it looked really bad.
It looked like a PlayStation 2 game. At
It
points.
did look like a PlayStation 2 game.
Yikes.
It's like a joke that's
well,
going around right now, but it's still.
Oh, I thought you
apt.
were
No,
clever.
I want to go back in this because there are parts I do agree, parts I don't. I think going back to the car again for me, like the car chase, it was about watching them work together as a team.
That's
there,
fine.
The
Just
scenes,
cut out 5 minutes of
there
that
were
shit.
scenes later that were about feeling threatened. Like for example, like when Killmonger or Eric and T'Challa fight on the waterfall. like that is a scene where you're like, oh shit. I mean,
But like he's got to lose so that the villain can come to power, so that the third act has to be and but he's got to go over that waterfall so that you can assume that he's dead.
And he's gonna live.
It's not a bad action sequence though.
But again, now you're like critiquing it for like, oh, this adheres to like basic story structure.
No,
bullshit.
I think we're critiquing this Marvel formula that we're all kind of.
But I don't think that's just
I
think that's not just a Marvel formula. That's just a story formula.
Well, I mean, even by that point, like I remember thinking in the movie, like if I have to see him lose his power of the Black Panther ritual one more fucking time.
Drink the
so like yes, it was a good
Yeah.
scene, but by that time I was like, I'm done with this waterfall fighting, losing your powers, and having to fight like a man scene. I wanted
Because Michael never fights like a man.
no straight for the groin.
I don't know. I just think that stuff is. I mean, I think we're being like really critical.
Sure, because this is
That's what we do here. What the fuck?
we have to be.
All we do is shit on movies.
They're just now getting like this is a good movie. I mean, as much as we're shitting on it, it's a good movie.
We spent 2 hours bashing the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah. And I love that movie.
That was in your top 5 and yours.
Yes. This is a good movie, but there are a lot of problems with it.
And it's not just this movie. It's the Marvel
I think
formula.
what it is, I mean, for a lot of people, you can say it's their favorite Marvel movie from the cinematic universe, and I won't argue that. But I think for us, it never reached the level of something like The Dark Knight, or Logan or something like that.
Yeah.
The ones that we think of as the very like top tier that transcend being a comic book movie, and you think of more as just like a really fucking good movie you want to see. And we all agree that we enjoyed this film.
Yeah, this was a good movie. But I feel like some of this stuff, to me, it would just be better if it was shorter. Like, I know when he's fighting Killmonger, this is his first fight with the villain, he has to lose. Yeah. It has to seem like he's dead. Like, I understand that all of this is going to happen. If it had happened earlier in the movie, it might not have been as, like, here I've got to watch this.
One other thing I want to bring up about that, too, is the first trailer where it's Gollum explaining to Bilbo, the two token white characters.
That joke.
I was waiting so long to use that. Okay. No, when he's explaining to him about like what Wakanda is and all that shit, I was by the time that scene was actually in the movie itself, I was just sitting here as like, did they just shoot this for the fucking trailer? Because we already know all these things. Though, like the whole turn comes at like, oh, the weapon technology came from there, but it just felt like really out of place and poorly implemented by the time they got to the point of what they were supposed to talk about.
Yeah, because the audience already knew that.
It felt redundant in a way they should have set it up differently.
I would agree with that. Like some of the flaws of the movie are more expository. I think the opening scene where they describe the origins of Wakanda was not necessary. I think
not at all.
I think that should have been done with characters.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah.
Amen.
But then would you not think that it was like another just exposition scene?
I mean, exposition is just a part of movies. It just the way exposition feelings just needs to feel seamless, if that makes sense. Like, like once you know, like, I'm being given
exposition.
Yeah, they could have just had the guy from Get Out be like, remember when that asteroid hit like thousands of years ago and we got all this magic? Wasn't that crazy?
That was a great day.
There you go, done. We didn't need like $1 million CGI.
Right.
I didn't care about.
Well, I think that's something that the movie could do better at. But I don't know. I think that because now we're getting into a broader discussion on superhero movies, which I think is actually not a bad place to go. I think that like sort of putting it below Dark Knight and Logan might actually have to do with like romanticizing both of those movies just a little bit, particularly The Dark Knight.
They're good movies.
They are, but so is Black Panther. Like The Dark Knight has a ton of like big kind of goofy action sequences that go on a little bit long.
I can't think of a single action sequence from this film though that really is gonna stick out in memory. Being like, wow, that was really cool. Like, I actually feel like the action sequences of this movie, I don't think they were bad, but I don't think anything sticks out as being overly memorable to me personally.
Like I think I'll always remember the like truck flipping over, and like I'll remember Batman driving his motorcycle like almost into the Joker and peeling away last second. Like I'll remember that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think those were some cool moments, but
it's like
other than that, there's a lot of there's a lot more action in The Dark Knight that's sort of just like...
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think I would still prefer the Dark Knight action sequences.
I mean,
more
of course,
than these.
but
But they are definitely like part of my criticism.
That's a
of that movie.
stylistic preference.
Sure, and I think that's where a big part of this comes from is like Nolan's Batman movies and Logan are like more scaled down. They're calmer, quieter, more
They're
realistic,
realism.
and it's like there's like a nostalgia for that, like a longing for that after how many fucking Marvel movies?
But it's like you can't ask Marvel to do realism all of a sudden within their cinematic.
No, we
I
can't.
understand that,
The
but
point is,
That's not what this cinematic universe
No,
is.
no.
it's not. But we can't put that above the other things when we preferred those kind of movies, what they do in those kind of movies to begin with. Because I've always, to an extent, have gripes with Marvel and the newer DC movies, just because it's just a CGI clusterfuck, and it gets to a point where it's like, well, he can just absorb all damage that comes into his armor, and he gets hit too many times, it explodes out. Where it's like, okay, so what the fuck are you gonna do to hurt him?
Yeah, so like that was something I didn't like because I really liked the way that he fought in Civil War. Even though, like, that's another example of like I don't understand why Disney hires all of these like fucking directors, but their styles like they don't separate that much.
Even the fact that he had to have the magical like fucking metal flower juice to be super powered, and then they had to keep taking away and giving back to him. I wish they would have cut that shit completely out.
Yeah.
And be like, he's a normal man. He just has a suit, and he's trying to do what he can with the suit.
Like
but
Tony.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that, but I didn't mind it.
But again, it's Marvel, and everything's cosmic and overpowered, and they're exploding or blowing up the balloon as much as they can. So it has to be that next level. And I think for us, at least for me, it's a preference of not enjoying that as much as. Something, I don't want to say more visceral, but not as over the top.
I would agree with that. But now I feel like, now we've been... I got to try to have an ebb and flow here between saying positive and
You're
negative.
starting to realize that you're colonizers. Wolf is right. No, I hear like a lot of these criticisms, but to me they're almost like why doesn't this movie have a different style? And it's like, well, because it's not a movie with a different
Well, do
style.
you think the bombastic type of fight scenes of this movie were good? Like, do you think they were great? Do you think they're overly memorable?
I think that for Marvel movies they're fine. I don't think
they're fine though. That's
action
just it.
is something that I necessarily remember about this movie. But that's not really the case for most Marvel movies. I don't really think about the action.
And that's what we're saying.
Yeah,
we don't enjoy
that's
most Marvel.
like
we don't think most Marvel movies are great, and the one thing that's holding it back is it still feels like most Marvel movies.
Yeah,
It's
I
doing
still
a
feel
lot.
like I'm going to like I forget about.
But I don't think it feels
all the Marvel movies, like most of the details after I leave the theater.
But
like,
I guess
this
I would
movie
say
is
that,
going to be the same. I
Yeah.
can already tell. I'm already forgetting stuff.
But
The only thing that sticks out is the look. That's it.
Sure. But even the look kind of felt like Ragnarok in like
A little
the
bit.
city that he was
Yeah, I
walking
can see
around
that.
in and stuff. Like the design of the city that he was walking around in kind of felt a little bit like the street that like T'Challa and
I gotta say, design is actually something I really want to give this movie props for.
I'm not saying I'm saying that both movies look like they both look good,
But they also
just,
feel like the
kind
same
of-
world.
Kind of
no, I
Same
don't.
similar.
I wouldn't.
I
say
don't really agree with that either. I think
I'm gonna
that.
look it up.
Go ahead, look it
I'll
up.
look it up.
Are you gonna like literally Google is the design of Black Panther
Okay.
good?
So
The internet agrees.
No.
So I guess like but the thing is like I think that like hammering Black Panther for this mistake that all Marvel movies make is like
Well, this
I
is
mean,
the
like,
first time we've really
but
gotten
here's
together
the-
and talked about a Marvel
But
movie together.
I
So these
guess
grievances
well,
are coming up.
we-
Well,
Let's
is
talk
it
about
good for
Spider-Man
a Marvel
Homecoming.
movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is it good for a Marvel movie, or is it good for an actual movie? That's the issue.
I think it's good for an actual movie and a Marvel movie. But like I guess what I'm saying is like I just think that for example like think about Guardians. Like
try
no
not
one faults Guardians for over the top action sequences because that's what you'd expect from that kind of over the top.
I mean,
When was the last time you heard one of us say? Well, when was the last time you heard me say something good about Guardians?
Or me. I don't give a shit about that
What's-
movie.
I mean, I feel like though that movie came at a time where, like, that was the first one to really, I guess, kind of not. I don't want to say jump the shark, but that one kind of went out into the cosmic world and
No one cared about
they-
Space Marvel until Guardians. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, and that's like what I'm saying is like we accepted the over the topness because it was the first one that like did that, and I think that might be
And this is coming back to Marvel fatigue.
Yeah,
again.
you know what
Yeah.
though? That is something else that I did really appreciate about Black Panther was ever since Guardians, Marvel movies have been getting like so funny.
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok is just a comedy.
It really is.
No, it absolutely is.
So like this movie has funny moments, but it toned that back.
Yeah, I was glad about that.
So like I hear
like
what you're
that.
saying. We're like now we're turning this into a big grievance about Marvel movies, but we haven't really done that yet before. So I do feel bad that we're doing that with Black Panther because it's maybe the best one, definitely the best one in a long
It's definitely
time.
a top tier Marvel Cinematic Universe film.
But see, that's my like struggle with this movie because I did enjoy it, but I feel like it's
Just came
just
to the
falling.
time.
Like it's just the timing is real bad on its part because like I've seen so many Marvel movies and like it's different and it's really good, but it's not different enough and good enough for me to give a shit.
I think the moment that I knew that though was the scene where right after T'Challa is like resurrected from like falling off the fucking waterfall, and then he's like in that throne room for the other tribe. I can't remember that tribe or that room looked sick with all the like bones and shit hanging.
Oh, they're
from
just
the
tree
ceiling.
branches. It wasn't that.
Oh, I thought it was bones.
It would have been cool if it was bones.
I thought it was like.
Yeah, I was like, what?
No, that was like some hope just hanging up there.
That.
Well, anyway, it still looked dope. But like, what I wish would have happened in that scene instead of the like traditional like I'm gonna need an army, and he's like, yeah, no, fuck you, you're not getting one, and then you're like thinking the entire time like, okay, they're gonna show up at the last minute and they're gonna save T'Challa and like the gang and whatever and like help them like save the day.
You know what? Well, sorry to interrupt,
Go ahead.
real quick, but that is something like that ties in with the design thing that I was talking about earlier. I was glad that there were different tribes and regions.
Yes, I thought that's cool.
Because otherwise, Wakanda would have just felt like it was a city.
Yeah,
and that really helped it feel like it was its own country.
It was super cool, and like that group was really cool too.
Yeah.
Like that they kind of rejected the technology and everything. I thought that was like super cool. But what I wish would have happened, because they talked about how like the group was like kind of like they outcasted themselves, or they were outcast or something like that.
They
like
outcasted
his
themselves.
group. I wish what would have happened was that scene should have been like a scene to show like T'Challa being an actual fucking king and a leader, and like compromising with this guy to get the army to help him, instead of like this last minute dramatic thing. Like I think it would have shown like to show him as like a leader, and you know, making a deal with this guy to say like, look, help me out and you can have a seat at our like giant throne room where we're all like all the gangs are like hanging out and talking.
Gangs.
Like colonizer, yeah. No, but you know what I mean. Like the groups all meet in the one throne room, but
The one from Phantom Menace, yeah, we know.
yeah, yes. But it's, I mean, I think that would have been a much better scene, and it also like we would have gotten away from that cliche thing that has happened in so much stuff. I mean, the most vivid one that comes to mind is Game of Thrones, when
Oh yeah, it's a battle of the bastards.
exactly like it, and that's what it felt like, and I knew it was going to happen, and I think everybody in the theater knew it was going to happen the second that guy said no.
I don't think we weren't supposed to know it was going to happen. I don't think that was.
But
the
I'm
aim
saying like
of
why
that scene.
No, but I mean,
just subvert it.
You have
Like,
like
do
an interesting alternative though, of like showcasing T'Challa
Yeah.
being a king.
Like I think that would have
Because he really didn't get a chance to do that.
exactly, and I think
yeah, but a
that
lot
would-
was going on that
I know
day.
a lot was going on
And I
that
think
day.
that
That's the
that-
other thing.
I think that because right before that he's like telling his dad, "No, I've got like shit to do. Like I'm not gonna die right now. Like I'm not gonna hang out with you guys. I've got shit to do." If he would have came back and like united the tribes,
So we're getting full on spoilers at this point.
Oh, we've been there.
oh, we've
Yeah.
been there,
Yeah.
But I think if he would have united the tribes, like that would have been like super fucking dope, and like to see like, what Killmonger or Eric, whatever we want to call him.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. To see MJ react, you know, to him bringing an entire army, I think would have been interesting.
Okay. I
Agreed.
mean, I
He doesn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I don't.
That's a good point.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying
it wasn't.
Let me tell you why you're wrong.
It's not not a point. I don't really know. It's like, okay, that could have been. I don't know. I don't know so much that it's a big problem that you're. I think that when I look at Black. Okay, so like when Guardians came out, I remember, and this is something maybe a place where I disagree with a lot of people on the political part of my spectrum, or the political spectrum, I guess. When Guardians came out, there was like a huge backlash. Not a huge backlash, but a moderate backlash, stating that like, well, Guardians is misogynistic because of the way it portrays Peter Quill as sort of like a ladies' man, and sort of takes away agency from some of the women in that movie. And I was thinking, I'm not saying that those criticisms were totally unfounded, but Guardians was an improvement in that area. It wasn't a step back. And so in this case, I feel like I'm getting like kind of the same thing from this table. Is that like, well, Black Panther was actually an improvement in all of these areas, as far as Marvel movies go. Yet we're treating it like it's like the worst Defender a little bit.
No, wait, I thought we tried to emphasize a lot here that we don't think it's the worst Defender.
But probably
it's
not.
Just,
But
this is
probably
the first
not
episode we've done really talking about a Marvel movie
that we dived
on its
into,
own,
But not enough.
Well, let me ask you this though.
Okay, so give me a second here.
Okay.
Like the thing is like, so like with Black Panther, one thing you mentioned earlier is that like comedy. Like Marvel movies lately have just become kind of joke movies. Like Thor Ragnarok was an example of that. Yet Black Panther jumps in and it actually doesn't feel like any Marvel movie that's come out in the last probably 5 years. It's way more serious. Like, I mean, what's the last Marvel movie that was this serious?
Ultron?
No, not I would say if you go back to Civil War, Civil War was way more like of a joke.
Yeah,
No.
Winter Soldier was the last one.
say-
As we've
I was gonna
stated,
say
it
Civil
wasn't
War,
even
Winter
that.
Soldier, but again,
I would say maybe Winter Soldier. And
Yeah,
that was
and even
like,
that wasn't that serious.
was
So this is a big improvement.
probably 5 years ago.
I mean,
And then like that's what's the last Marvel movie that's had like villains this good? Like what's the last Marvel movie that's had design like that was this good? It's like
Thor Ragnarok.
I thought Thor Ragnarok looked awesome.
Yeah,
I thought
and
the trailers
it didn't
for Thor
have
Ragnarok.
PlayStation
I thought
2
the
in it.
No,
trailers
I
for
did.
Thor Ragnarok looked awesome.
No,
I thought the fucking flashback sequence with all the Valkyries that's just not a part of the movie looked awesome.
But that did
Yeah.
look sick. But I
I
think
don't-
the
I don't-
design of that movie looked really good.
No, I think the design for Thor Ragnarok was just like sort of like random sci-fi like cyberpunk
I
futurism.
disagree.
Or no, I don't know if cyberpunk's
It's
the right
not
word.
cyberpunk.
That is
It's not cyberpunk.
No.
What's the word for like the
That would be Blade Runner 2049.
Thanks, buddy.
So what's the word for the planet? I don't know what you call it.
Bullshit.
No,
that's
but-
what I would call the aesthetic
No.
of Thor Ragnarok.
The aesthetic for Black Panther actually had like care and it had like research and it had
Because it was drawing from
it drew from
Like
inspirations and so
like a
the
heritage.
right, but in that way
But this is all made up.
The
Like,
aesthetic-
Ragnarok was made up.
Thor could have took some Viking
they
shit.
could've.
It didn't have to look like Power Rangers vomited
I'm sure
all over the place.
I'm sure they did. It just looks more like
Thor
more like
1 and Thor 2 didn't? I mean, I don't remember.
No,
Thor 2,
I'm
but
gonna
Thor 1.
I'm gonna
they
say.
look vaguely Viking, but
In fact, I would say Thor 3 looks the best. Even
does.
just Thor as a character. Go back and look at
Oh, no,
Thor in the
no.
first movie, and you're like, why did anyone let that happen?
He's got a mullet.
That horrible fucking wig, and you're like, oh, you look like an idiot.
Oh.
I mean,
anyway,
all your points are true. Yes,
of course they are.
But
do not give him that.
Yeah.
But-
So let me ask you
I
this,
think
and I don't mean to be
Alright.
a dick, but at the risk of being one anyway. So we're worried about spoilers for Black Panther, but I've got a question: what is a spoiler for this movie? Because I would say that the biggest one would be that Killmonger is the villain, but
The trailer
the internet
shows
already
that.
knows that, and the trailer already knows. Like
Well,
the second it was announced that he plays Killmonger, 12 million nerds were like, "This is gonna be."
Well, I mean, the fact that Killmonger kills Ulysses, the
Everett McGill. No Brother Where Art Thou joke
Jesus
that
Christ.
no one
No, I got it, and I
liked.
hate you.
I don't know, the fact that Black Panther's best friend betrays him, I guess.
See,
I would-
I wish they would have done more of that. That was like.
which was actually probably one of the more poorly
Yeah,
executed.
it was
Yeah,
so
that was not a
poorly
good
because
part of it,
like even like the whole throwaway part where like
Well, I
he
mean,
was
don't get me wrong.
in a
Like, I'm not
relationship
saying
with-
this to be a dick. I'm just saying, like, you're saying that we're being too critical of this movie, but we all liked the movie. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
No, I'm not saying you
there's
guys
a
are
reason
being-
why we have our criticism.
Well, I think what we do about an hour, and you guys are mostly filling it with negative things about the movie, and most of the positive things about the movie are going to go unsaid.
Well,
I think
It's
we've
almost
said
like our.
I don't know if I
No,
really
I think we've like
positive.
barely scratched the surface on the positive things.
Do we
Well,
wanna
here's
get
the thing
into
about the movie. It has a
No.
97% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's hearing about the positives. I feel like by now, people know about the positives of this
Yeah.
movie. I mean, we're not trying to like bring it down in any way and take away anyone's enjoyment from it in any way. Like, yeah, we have been hard on it. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
But again, this is kind of our own personal reaction to everyone like saying that it's a perfect movie or something like that. And while we think it's a very, very good movie, an important movie, a fun movie, we have our grievances.
Well, right, but
I'm still mad that no one saw Blade Runner 2049, and I can't let that. So anytime a movie does successful,
You're bitter.
I'm bitter.
Yeah, I got you. To me, this isn't like a personal attack on this movie, and I feel like I've heard it and read it other places that a lot of people are in the same boat of feeling like this movie is good and it's fun to watch, and I got a lot of entertainment out of it for the 2 hours that I was there, but like it is like the way that they're releasing these movies and how quickly they're doing it, it is kind of grating on people, I believe, that like it's just like another superhero movie after another.
Well, elephant in the room, like for a lot of people, a lot of a certain group of people, this isn't just another superhero
Yeah,
movie.
I understand
And
that.
none of those people are in this room.
No, I
But
get
we
that.
should.
That's-
But we should.
I'm not saying.
I just think
In no way are we trying to invalidate their opinion
Yeah.
or demoralize them.
No,
in
no,
any way.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
we're trying to do that. I just think that probably does need to be said at some point.
Well, yeah,
in the
again, like,
podcast.
I mean, I think
Uh,
at one point, it's like, it didn't resonate as me for, it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't made for me personally, but I mean, to an extent, it wasn't, like, it still is very entertaining and we still enjoy it, but it's not a movie that we're going to feel inspired by as the same way that other people will and have been by it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, it's not a movie like I've left several movies this year, like Baby Driver, The Three Billboards, and I'd be like, this movie, like, I was all jazzed up and excited for just in general about movies, like, oh, good movies can be made. This is awesome. This didn't happen with Black Panther for me. And obviously that happened for a lot of people, but I was just like, oh, that was a fun movie, and I'll forget about it in 2 weeks.
you know, I'm not black, but I would say I was pretty. I mean, in case you guys couldn't tell, I was pretty inspired by it. I thought that it just seeing not only a black like leading superhero, but also I think way more so that sort of the Afrofuturism, like the depiction of like black independence and like sort of a African society that was thriving and independent and powerful, and that sort of like celebrated like a sort of like a really old culture that was sort of taken away and destroyed, and the fact that they're elevating that and celebrating it, and sort of
and I like the diversities in the culture,
right?
Really
And
nice.
then like suggesting that there's like a future to that.
Yeah.
I thought that was like pretty inspiring.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
absolutely
that's
right.
that's
But the thing is, like, other Marvel movies don't do stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I don't just mean specifically for black people. They don't do stuff like that
In general,
really
yeah.
for anyone.
Yeah.
Does Thor have an interesting take on Viking culture or Norse mythology?
I think that we can all agree that
no.
Thor is not the best. Of
Right,
the Marvel movies.
Any of them,
but
yeah.
what
Yeah.
does Captain America 1 have an interesting take
Like-
on World War II.
No, that's
Nazis shot laser guns.
Or even
and never used
America.
swastikas.
Well, just like we said about Winter Soldier, how like it doesn't do
Right, like
as much. Like,
I think the
you're very
closest
right.
they ever got was Winter Soldier, but even then they lose it in the third act.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It does.
What does Ant-Man do?
Yeah.
Like what does
I was
that
actually
shit.
really.
does Doctor
He shrinks.
Does Doctor Strange have an interesting take on the occult or Asian culture? Like
Or surgery?
or surgery. I mean, I'm John Draper should have been. That's not here.
Yeah, John Hamm. Come on.
John Hamm. Yeah. But I mean, and that's another thing that
He was in the running. He would have been great. What a masculine sound you just made.
But again, like, while I can agree that, like, I know for me the chase scene and stuff like that, they're not my favorite thing. I don't penalize them for not being realism because they're not realism.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we can talk about those things. But yeah, there's also these whole other things that Black Panther does
Yeah.
that no other Marvel movie does, and I don't
You're
just mean
absolutely right, yeah.
for that one subculture, but for that one culture, but for any culture. Or
Yeah.
for any like people. I'm trying to think of more Marvel movies, but they're so forgettable.
The
Spider-Man,
Incredible Hulk.
haven't seen it.
No one has. It sucked.
Nope.
I definitely agree with you, Yasm.
Well, here's the thing. We agree with everything you're saying there. The problem for us is it's still a Marvel movie. And while
Sure.
it needs to be acknowledged and like celebrated to an extent that Disney would actually take the risks to do a movie like this that might not be financially successful, something they haven't done, something that, they could possibly run the risk of being viewed as alienating, some of their core fans. The fact that they were able to take it and lean into it and not have it feel pandering or like by design to an extent from what you were saying before, that's awesome. That's great. Like, seriously.
Right.
That's when I think of this movie, that's going to be like what I think is the best part of the film. But at the end of the day, just these fucking CGI rhinos ramming into each other and Bilbo Baggins in a spaceship shooting shit.
Oh, he wasn't in the spaceship.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, Bilbo
Again,
Baggins.
he wasn't even in the spaceship.
Yeah, he wasn't even in the spaceship. Come on. That's the kind of shit, like, I'm just going to forget and be like, God, that's so fucking dumb.
I think another important thing about this movie too would also be just the strong female.
Oh, dude, they were
leads in this.
badass.
They were my favorite
Yeah.
part of this.
Oh, yeah,
whole
for sure.
Right.
Movie.
They were bad
I don't remember
fucking
Lupita. Yeah, I don't remember her character's name, but she was pretty cool. But what actually surprised me is that normally in like a Marvel movie, you have the guy, and then you have their love interest, and their love interest is like the next one who gets all like who gets like all the badass moments because that's all they have. That they kind of put it all on that character.
Like
Where
Gamora.
in this case, like like Gamora. In this case, she actually has to split that with like these two other, more than two really, but mainly the two other Michonne. I don't know her name.
Michonne.
Michonne,
sure.
yeah.
Michonne, Spear Lady, and
Guerrero.
Yeah.
and
I didn't know how to pronounce
Letitia
that.
Wright, which is Shuri, the princess of Wakanda. Like those characters are fucking cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was great to see them like actually be able to do something instead of it be like Ant-Man, where Evangeline Lilly is better at it. Just gotta talk about it for a second. Evangeline Lilly is better at fighting, sneaking around, and better at talking to fucking ants than Paul Rudd is. And she's not Ant-Man just because her dad's like, I didn't want you to be.
I wish the whole...
They could have written that, like, it's so easy. Just have it like, oh, she doesn't know karate, or oh, she can't talk to ants.
Nah.
She could just have one of those things that she's not able to do, and it would be like, oh, that makes a little
I
more
wish
sense.
that whole third act would have been like either Scott goes to prison and she has to,
That would have been fine, too.
or if she came in at the last minute and like stole his thunder or
Yeah,
something.
I'm just saying,
I
don't
would love
write a
that.
female character
That
is better in
character.
every way, and you still make her play second fiddle.
Exactly.
Because that's
Third
not
fiddle almost.
third fiddle. Because it's like you're just that's
Yeah,
shitty.
they should have just done an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie to begin with.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, because you're basically saying, well, we know women can do stuff too, but not in our movie. So
Black
yeah, Black
Panther
Panther
fixes
didn't
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think okay. So another area that like But again, regarding that cultural thing, I know I mentioned Marvel movies, but I would actually say the same to DC movies and X-Men movies. But another thing regarding story, we said that the villain is better. The villain we're talking about mainly is Michael B. Jordan. But the thing we haven't said is how he's better.
Well, he tapes kidney beans to himself every time he kills someone.
I
So it makes him look crazy when he has no shirt on.
He does look crazy.
It looked real cool.
But no, it was great because that they actually created for once in a Marvel movie not only a sympathetic villain, because you could say that Loki is kind of sympathetic.
Yeah.
Loki is entitled and selfish and feels jealous, and so that is apparently.
But Tumblr loves his cheekbones.
Yeah, that is what before passed as a good Marvel
By Tumblr, he means Michael.
But
No comment.
I don't know why that was so fucking funny.
I don't either.
Sick burn.
It was.
But no, I mean the fact that he actually has like a really understandable motivation that actually makes a lot of sense. For a minute, I'm like, Michael B. Jordan's kind of a bad guy, but for a minute there, you think, well, he's wrong, but then so is T'Challa.
Yeah, because I mean, isolationism
Because
isn't
In
right
fact, I
either.
would say that the only Marvel villain that's been 100% right was Kurt Russell, because he wanted to make the universe more.
I hate you. I hate
Okay.
you.
And then beyond that, the villains are villains, but not in this movie. And then almost makes me wish that, again, if we had just gotten to him sooner. Andy Serkis was fine. He was a lot of fun to watch, but I don't know how interested I was in his character.
I don't know that we even needed to get to him sooner. I think that every single scene with him in it communicated a perfect amount of information about him, and it had this really strong tug of war. One scene, we feel sympathetic towards his character, and the next scene we see that he's dangerous and kind of psychotic and.
Sure. Well, I mean, but the character is interesting, right from his introduction in the museum, and then when he turns on his cohorts, also a great scene.
Yeah.
You see him do the shoot the hostage bit, and you're like, it's phenomenal.
Right, but I mean, they do a good job at expressing him as being sort of a monster of their own making. Wakanda's isolationism created this guy, and then at the same time, they also do a really good job at subtly portraying that he really. Did become his enemies. There's a scene where he says the sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire. I mean, he's taking the vocabulary of his oppressors and then just using that to sort of to do the same thing. Because the sun will never set on the British Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone?
No.
Right.
No, never heard it.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I that's not something they've done. I mean, his last line. Did anyone else, as soon as he said that last line about being thrown into the ocean, instantly think of the ending scene from Anchorman 2, where Vince Vaughn says the really badass thing?
Oh God, no, I didn't.
Don't remember that movie.
That was a Michael level thing. Dragon Ball. Did the end of Black Panther make you think of Anchorman 2?
Yeah, no. You've insulted this movie more than we ever did the whole time.
Who's the real colonizer now, Yosin?
Still you guys. No.
None of us are
okay,
British.
At the end of Anchorman 2, Vince Vaughn is talking about how he knows he's gonna burn in hell, and then he's not afraid to burn on her. And then Ron Burgundy's my God, that's the most badass thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I understand what
In
you're
my
referencing.
head,
I'm just saying.
that's where I went. I was like, my God, that's the most badass thing I've ever heard.
It was a pretty badass line.
in a Marvel movie.
Also, pretty edgy for Disney.
I was gonna
that
say,
line,
that was definitely an impactful line.
Yeah, how about that? How about Disney made a movie where at the end, the villain talks about
slaves killing themselves instead of being slaves, and
slaves killing themselves instead
and
of being
comparing the
slaves.
hero basically to them,
Yeah, and then commits suicide.
yeah.
Yep.
And Black Panther's just damn, I got roasted.
Although, did he commit suicide really?
Well, okay,
he took the spear out.
He
and that's
sure.
fair.
he I don't
It's
know,
the implication.
He kind of yeah, he sort of I don't know, he accepted death, whatever.
Yeah.
That was fucking badass, guys.
No, it was. It was real good.
Black Panther. Anything we're forgetting before we close out?
Fuck the post credit scene. It's boring.
Yeah, and whenever they talk about Bucky Barnes, I'm like, fuck that.
Oh, I didn't even stick around for that one.
Good.
didn't
It
either.
was so fucking dumb.
I didn't either, but I read it on the internet.
I didn't care. Stop fucking doing that. God damn it.
You know,
Stop fucking doing that.
I'm not so mad about post-credits scenes. It's like just a thing they do that I'm glad they don't make them ones that we have to stick around for anymore.
Yeah.
My big thing is stop mentioning Bucky Barnes. We're never gonna care.
I fucking hate Bucky.
We're never gonna care about
Captain
and-
America, you guys.
Well, then now I like him. Shut up.
Really, who went to see Black Panther and then at the end was like, "Oh, I'm glad Bucky Barnes. I'm glad we got an update on Bucky Barnes." Like nobody, no one anywhere felt that way. Okay, I'm sure someone did, but fuck that person.
And if you're listening to this,
And their bones
go
burst.
slam your head against a wall right now. You fucking moron. Bucky Barnes sucks. There, we said it.
That was
Punch out.
That was intense.
Go on.
Do you like Bucky Barnes?
You know, I think he's alright. He's not my favorite.
He gets a bad rap.
He's not my favorite Avenger.
He's a good kid.
Okay.
What with him being, like a constant piece of shit, gets a little old.
You do love pieces of shit.
Who is also boring.
Who is also boring.
Yeah.
And looks like he's constantly emo Mark Hamill crying. Yeah.
Sure.
Soundtrack was good.
Yeah. I
I like it.
like that more. Like, I feel bad because I know it's a really important movie. It did a lot of good things. It made a lot of good steps forward.
Well, let's just. You like Thor 2.
I do.
Yeah, Michael, God.
How do you guys
I
feel?
like Thor also.
How do you guys?
What's Thor also? Is that the one after Thor 2?
How do you guys feel about that? Colonizers versus me. You guys are with Thor 2.
No, I'm on my own side. I never align with Michael or Thor 2.
Yeah.
I don't either.
I was gonna say, how am I against you if I say I really like the movie? Where's the line in that?
I'm a Sith. I deal in absolutes.
Classic.
Classic isn't. Sipping it up.
That's true.
Well,
You're welcome, Disney. We referenced another one of your properties.
which one? Oh yeah, right.
Star Wars. Name anything. It's Disney now.
How about all the trailers?
God damn it.
When we were
I don't want to see
the worst trailer.
any of
We're
those
gonna see
movies.
several of those movies to review them.
We're gonna see Deadpool 2. There's no way around that.
I hope we
I didn't even see
Hurricane
Deadpool
Heist.
1.
I didn't see a Deadpool 2 trailer.
What'd you say, Fucko?
I want to see Hurricane Heist.
Oh, I do want to see Hurricane
Fuck
Heist.
is Hurricane Heist?
Oh, it's going to be
ridiculous.
so
What trailers
bad.
were you guys?
Get ready.
It wasn't
for
a
that.
trailer during the movie.
No.
We just have seen this trailer
No,
and it looks
no.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, after we review Woody Woodpecker, I can't wait to do
Yes.
Hurricane Heist.
Yes. And then,
Guys, I
a
don't think we can
review of
review
Jumanji.
porns. Guys. I said I don't think we can review porns with Woody Woodpecker. I mean, God, keep it
What?
PG.
Did you say porn?
Michael, I don't know what fucking porns you're watching.
Oh my god.
I don't want to know.
Oh, yeah.
You mean porgs?
Porgs, yes.
Porgs. And we're back to Star Wars.
Disney.
They own
Jesus.
everything.
If you're still listening to this podcast at
sorry.
this point,
Why are you? Why?
what is
stop.
wrong with you?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
over.
Sorry, Chelsea.
WolfPunch.